on YouTube, it's me, the Student Witch. Happy Saturday. Thanks for everybody who is participating in my giveaway. I'm busy knitting the scarf that I'm going to include when I have more of it done. I'll show you guys what it looks like. But look what also I'm knitting. Something that I had originally planned to finish in October, but I'm still working on it. Look at this. This is the baby blanket that I started over the summer. Isn't it beautiful? I'm so proud of myself. I mean, I have a long ways to go, but my goal is to have it done by Christmas, because it will be the Christmas present that I give to my friend's baby who was born yesterday. She had a healthy son, a boy. I knew it was a boy. So I'll get to meet him when I go back home for Christmas. I'm so excited, so I'm working on that blanket. So, speaking of motherhood, this is the second time that I've tried to record this video. The first time I recorded it, when I was rewatching the video, I just realized I was just rambling. So I'm going to try to keep myself more focused this time. Speaking of motherhood, I have recently watched a couple of videos. One video is her speak. Molly, shout out to her, hey girl. One of her older videos, she talked about why and how she works with the image of the Virgin Mary. So I'm going to include that video, that link below. And also, I can never remember the name of this channel. Hold on, I have to go look this up. Okay, I don't know why I have such trouble remembering the name of this woman's channel. Kelly Ann Maddox. She is an excellent chaos witch, pantheistic pagan chaos witch in the UK, and she has a lot of videos. Her videos are long and she can talk a lot, but I've learned a lot from her channel. But she has this video specifically about her relationship with her her patron goddess, which is Hel, the Norse goddess of the underworld and stuff. Anyway, so after watching those two videos, and after looking back on my own Catholic upbringing, I realized, and also looking back at my academic work, I realized that I keep being drawn to the Virgin Mary, or Mary. I'm going to call her Mary. And not just Mary, but also a lot of the female saints, especially the earlier female saints, like the female saints that supposedly lived right when the Roman Empire and Emperor Constantine, well, I can't remember. I know at one point the Roman Empire was split. I can't remember exactly how all the historical shit went down. But anyway, when Constantine, Emperor Constantine, officially made Christianity into the religion of the state of Rome, and that turned into the Catholic Church and blah blah blah. When my friend, as she approached her due date, which officially was November 6th, but she didn't actually give birth until yesterday, the 13th, when we were approaching her due date, I wanted to do something for her. So and she is very Catholic. Very Catholic. Anyway, we kind of butt heads sometimes, but it's okay. We love each other. But I wanted to do something for her. I wanted to put together a prayer that incorporated some of her Catholic mythos and some of my own pagan mythos or viewpoints, beliefs, whatever. So I was looking into the patron saint of mothers and childbirth, and there's two. One of them is a guy. Threw him out the window. But another older saint is Saint Margaret of Antioch. And I have my notes here to try to keep me on track. She's really interesting because she was one of these very early saints, very, very early saints, who was pagan, but she found Jesus or whatever, and she dedicated her virginity to God and refused to go back to paganism, refused to give up her virginity, and so for that reason she was killed. Like the typical female virgin saint story from this very early time in Christianity. But what's really interesting, and the reason why she is the patron saint of childbirth and mothers, is because in her story, this guy, Olybrius, he wanted to marry her, but in order to marry her, he had to convince her to convert back to paganism because he was a pagan, and then, get married. But she refused. So he threw her in jail, tortured her. And while she was in jail, the devil came to attack her. And the devil came in the form of a dragon, and the dragon ate her. But because of the crucifix that she was wearing, it scratched the dragon's throat, and so the dragon coughed her back up. So that's like the fantastical part of her story. And that's also why she is related to childbirth. That idea of like pushing a life out of a tunnel, the birth canal, the dragon's throat. You get it. And an interesting tie to her with Joan of Arc is that she's known as Margaret. She's known as one of the 14 holy helpers, so one of those saints that you call upon for intercession. And she was actually one of the voices or the saints who appeared to Joan of Arc. And that's really interesting because Saint Margaret of Antioch, she was declared apocryphal by Pope Gelasius, I guess I'm pronouncing that right, in the year 494. So a pope declared her apocryphal, meaning she's not officially, or at that time, I don't know if she is now, but at least at that time, she wasn't officially recognized as a saint. So that, to me, really points to some, like, pagan roots to her story. But going back to my friend, she texted me at midnight, Thursday night, like 12 a.m. Friday, basically, to let me know that she went into labor. I didn't get the text until I woke up at 7 that day, but as soon as I woke up, I started putting together a prayer for her to Saint Margaret. And the way I kind of made it mine, I looked up to see if there were any pre-existing prayers. And there is a couple, but most of them emphasize the virginity, purity aspect, which, at least within a lot of types of Christianity, including the Roman Catholic Church, kind of turn female purity and virginity into a fetish. So I don't like that aspect because, like, sexuality, I celebrate female sexuality. I'm a staunch, hardcore feminist. I include feminist theory and queer theory into my academic work. I can't handle it. So for Saint Margaret, instead of worshiping her virginity and the idea of her as a sacrificial virgin, I celebrated her as the protector of mothers and childbirth. And I kind of pulled in some Christian Gnostic ideas into it. How how originally a lot of the early Christian Gnostic sects, they did not believe that the Christ was a historical figure. He was an allegory, he was an archetype, And it's kind of like the Wheel of the Year archetype of the mother who gives birth to the son, but then the son turns into her lover, and that's where the fertility part of spring comes from, blah, blah, blah. So that's why the Virgin Mary, she's the mother of God, or mother of the Christ, but Mary Magdalene represents her side as the lover of Christ, right? So Margaret, I would see her as one with that sacred union between the Christ and Mary, or the Christ and Sophia and female wisdom, like the divine masculine and feminine coming together, right? So that's kind of how I shaped my prayer to Saint Margaret. And I keep finding myself pulled back into this Roman Catholic mythology because of my background, but because it kind of feels like I'm reclaiming that, because a lot of that mythology, I mean, a lot of us in the pagan community, we're already aware of how a lot of the Christian myths and the Christian holidays and even the Christian images were based on previous pagan, or what the Christians would start calling pagan, deities and holidays and festivals and things like that. A lot of us already know that. So kind of going back to those Christian and Catholic iconography, the saints, images of the Virgin Mary, the archangels even, it's kind of like a reclaiming. I mean, I kind of joke around when I say this, but I'm also kind of serious. Like, there's nothing more pagan than Roman Catholicism. Like, you could argue that a lot of Protestant varieties of Christianity, because they kind of downplay the Virgin Mary and they just focus on God the Father, they're a little more monotheistic than Catholicism. Because Catholicism, you have this like whole plethora of saints. You have the archangels, you have the spirits of the dead, you have the Virgin Mary, who also exists as an intercessor between the transcendental God and the physical, material reality of the human existence. It's so pagan. It's so polytheistic. It's awesome. So I have to admit I was a little scared about venturing this route, because I have that anxiety about turning back towards Roman Catholic images and iconography and mythology, because I view, and this is for me personally, I view my leaving of Catholicism as a liberation. Christianity and Catholicism, to me, I know some people find liberation in those religions, in that like monotheistic worldview, but for me personally, it's too dogmatic, it's too absolutist, and if you look at the actual history of the institution of the Roman Catholic Church, it has a lot of blood on its hands. A lot of blood on its hands. And it has contributed to perpetuating a global problem with violent patriarchy. I mean, globally, the most dangerous threat against women, their health and well-being, is men. How sad is that? Globally. And Christianity and the unbalance, I think, that it tried to create between the masculine and feminine elements of existence, I guess, it's contributed to that violence against women. So I can't unplug the history of, let's say, the Catholic Church's participation in the colonizing of the Americas, for example. I can't forget about that. I can't just ignore that and say, well, they said they were sorry 400 years later. Too late. Like, what about the lives that were lost? The indigenous people that were enslaved and forced to convert, the victims of the Inquisition, because the Inquisition was brought to the colonies. It wasn't just in Europe. What about the Catholic Church profiting from the enslavement of both indigenous and then later African peoples who were brought to the New World? Like, what the fuck, you know? Anyway, so I just view, please just know when I'm critiquing the Roman Catholic Church, it's as an ideological institution. So for me to turn back to these icons, it's kind of scary because I saw myself as free from that ideology. So it's kind of scary to turn back and face it head on, you know? But reclaiming it and finding the roots of it, the roots of this ideology and these images in a very deformed version of the sacred masculine and feminine, it's also very empowering. One thing that has helped me as I do turn around to face the images and ideology and iconography, a lot of academic jargon today, I'm sorry. You know what I'm talking about though, like the Virgin Mary and the saints and stuff, and even the rituals of Catholic Mass and the rituals of the special masses like Easter Vigil. That, oh man, Easter Vigil was like my shit. I loved the rituals of Easter Vigil because they go all the fuck out. Anyway, I loved Easter Vigil as a kid because I loved the ritual. I loved the almost like esoteric nature of the ritual, the incense, the candles, the prostration before the altar, like the symbology of the host and the wine. Anyway, I was really into it. But even now, looking back on it, like looking at the rituals, the iconography, the statues of the different virgins, the images of Saint Michael, like the versions of the virgins, because at least this is a very big thing in Latin America, but like each country basically has its version of the Virgin Mary. You know, Mexico has La Virgen de Guadalupe. I can't remember if this is Dominican Republic or Cuba, but they have La Virgen de Caridad de Cobre, and these virgins in Latin America, they're brown-skinned, they're syncretic. They literally represent like the racial mixture between and cultural mixture between African elements, indigenous elements, European elements. Like studying all this academically, because I have a published article about the Virgin of Guadalupe and how contemporary queer artists are creating their own versions of the Virgin of Guadalupe. Sorry, virgin. Anyway, chaos magic and the idea of belief as a tool has really helped me be okay with this and helped me grow stronger through this reclaiming of the sacred feminine in Christianity. Thinking about the Virgin Mary specifically as a representation of the divine feminine in Christianity. Monotheism, specifically the three Abrahamic religions, you know, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. God, or the only truth, is seen as purely masculine. So the divine feminine, officially, by the official ideology, was stamped out. Or so it seems, because what the official ideology couldn't do was control all the people. There's a wonderful documentary, and if I can remember its title, I'll include the link below, but it's a BBC documentary. I think its title is something like When God Had a Wife, and it shows how the early Israelites, very early Israelites, how even though officially the state of Israel, the empire or whatever, was monotheistic and had this very patriarchal, masculine God, a lot of the people still believed that God had a wife. They believed in a goddess, the god and his wife. So the sacred feminine wasn't stamped out. It was not erased, nor will it ever be. Because no matter how hard our fucked up, patriarchal, violent, racist, homophobic society gets, no matter how hard it tries to erase the divine feminine in men and women, and in our ideologies and worldviews, no matter how hard it tries, it's not going to succeed because the divine feminine is too powerful. So under that lens, going back and studying the divine feminine within Christianity in the form of the Virgin Mary and all the different versions of the Virgin Mary across the world, in the form of the female saints, in the form of Mary Magdalene and some of the other female characters in the Bible, it's empowering going back and studying the divine feminine in the Christian mythos. It kind of gives the Virgin Mary some muscle, because I think she's just seen as this very passive, submissive mother of God, a mother who was never tainted by the sin of sex. How fucked up is that? But anyway, so this virginal, passive, submissive, obedient female deity, if you think about her importance to even Catholics, to Christians all over the world, how they pray to her more often than they pray actually to God. It shows how she ain't passive. She's right there. She's standing right fucking in front of you, and she's not going to go anywhere. That divine feminine ain't going nowhere, man. And also, even within the story of the Virgin Mary, like having to witness the torture and death of her son. So, like, there's a death aspect to the Virgin Mary. Of course, the virgin aspect would go with the maiden. If you want to think about maiden, mother, and crone, she's the maiden, the mother, and then I guess the crone aspect might be when she ascended into heaven, because the Virgin Mary didn't die. God plucked her from the earth and she went directly to heaven, according to official church doctrine. So she has all three aspects of the divine feminine. If you think about the divine feminine in terms of maiden, mother, and crone, she has a death goddess aspect. She even has a fucking warrior goddess aspect if you think about her resilience and how she, through her, the divine feminine, refused to be erased, even from a very patriarchal monotheistic religion. So it's been a very interesting journey, and this has just been in the last few weeks of me kind of looking back and exploring this divine feminine in Christianity, this reclamation of the divine feminine, this reclamation of the pagan roots of Christianity, remembering that pagan was a word that they started. It's been a very interesting journey, and even working with Saint Margaret of Antioch and praying to her to protect my friend as she went into labor. Yeah, I'll definitely keep you guys posted. I hope this video made some more sense. At least more sense than the first time I tried to record it. So yeah, I'll include the links that I mentioned below, and let me know what you think about working with Christian or monotheistic goddesses, as contradictory as that sounds. Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Bye!